Hi everyone, welcome back. We're continuing on painting a bunch of quick studies, floral studies, and like I said, we're going to do this with animals, landscapes, wild, the portraits and stuff, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll do some seascapes and stuff too. Quick studies. These are paintings I do at the end of the day after my painting day to just kind of practice new things or new looks and stuff like that. They're a lot of fun. I've done a couple of them back there. And let's get into it, okay? So again, I have an 11 by 14 board here. Got a little sanding dust there. And I gave it, it's 11 by 14, so 14 this way, 11 this way. I gave it a coat of canvas prep medium. I use these because they're standard sizes. They're easy to find pre-made frames for if you want to frame them. Gave it a coat of canvas medium, sanded it lightly, and with 180 grit sandpaper, and then I'm ready to paint. My palette, these are the colors that I use. I've been using on these studies. The 10 colors, Jessica calls them Dave's Faves, over on our websites and stuff. The links for everything and the list of palette colors are in the video description down below, okay? I also have out some Deravan Open Medium here, which I use when I thicken up the colors, and then some extender medium here that I use when I thin up the colors. I usually start the paintings a little thin. So lately we've been doing, and I had this little putty color which I really liked, which was the burnt sienna, a little bit of green. We added a touch of blue, tiny bit, and some white here, and I like that. But I was just thinking, as I was getting ready to start this one, let's go a little more burnt sienna. Might have to put out a little more white. And I got a new tube of white, so we can have some fun with that one. But I was thinking maybe start it out and then put in some cool colors. So this is one of the things I like to do, these quick compositions, because this gives me ideas for larger paintings. So I'll take this putty color. We started one of them with the putty, and we'll push some of that in, maybe out through the painting a little bit more, maybe a light. And we'll use that almost like a bake sauce. I like to do Impressionism, which means you leave, I like to leave a little bit of the background showing through it, but maybe we'll go a little heavier over here, softer over here, and then we're going to put in some really cool color notes. So let's take some of this putty and push it up here in case we need it. But the cool color notes, I love the cools. So the cools come out here with your violets, your blues here. I like both violets and the blues here. Let's keep it slightly on the blue side here. Maybe a little bit of white right now to keep the color a little softer, but we'll just let that model up. Let's just take a look, even with that putty color in our brush. Let's keep this, let's move this through here, and we'll create some cool color notes onto a completely different look. Yeah, sometimes at the end of the day like this, I lose my mind when I'm painting, and this is what makes the most fun and fantastic paintings. Now, I could put it in with a palette knife too. You've seen me do that a lot, but let's just try this a little heavier here. Oh, I see. I love all of that. You see all over YouTubes and stuff, guys and artists that punch holes in buckets and spin stuff around with the colors. I love that. And I was just like, geez, I should do some fun things like that into my paintings too, I mean, it's fun. It's fun backgrounds and movements and stuff. So let's rinse that color out of this bigger brush for a minute, okay? And let's go to our 3/4 inch brush and some heavier color, heavier dark, maybe a bit of burnt sienna in that as well. So it gets a kind of a warm note to it as well. So you can see a bit of that burnt sienna in there. That's pretty. Let's just work this through. And so I imagine, like outside leaves, that kind of stuff that's working through the composition. That's what I'm imagining here as I'm doing this. Stems, some of this, I love that burnt sienna note right in there, right in here. Just boom, just put that. I like that. So I might, and I love on one of the last ones I did, I put some burnt sienna notes out like that, just as I'm thinking of, like on rose rose bushes and stuff, there's, you know, the burnt sienna leaves and stuff that come down towards the bottom of the newer ones, or out by the tips of the leaves, the you know, newer leaves and stuff come up there. Now let's take a little bit of this soft. Let's go back to a bit of the violet, away from the blue towards the violet slightly more, because we can paint violet roses really easy. And let's just push. Let's do a 2-row, smaller 2-row composition maybe. One right there and one right up here. Right like that. I like that. Let's put a little warm note with just a touch of blue here, right up there. I like that. See that coming through there. Okay, all right. Do you kind of see where I'm going? It's kind of funny because this is my second or third one today, the quick compositions, and as I get going with this, as I get a couple more, I start to loosen up and I start to relax. So sometimes, you know, it's just a board. I get these boards, I buy them in big 4x8 sheets, and of course I have a big table saw and wood shop that I make frames and stuff in, and I cut them down. But you can get them cut down at your local home store too. But I cut them down, and, you know, so these things are just pennies for the board, so they're easy to practice. And you know, I put out these paints, and I've done 2 paintings with this. I put out a squirt, and I've done 2 paintings already with them. So that amount of paint, you know, 50 cents or $1 worth of paint, you're going to do a lot of these practices boards too. And then you can always put the paint away too to save it. So let's go over, let's grab our brush. You know, the 10 is one of my favorite painting brushes. So we'll rinse out that 3/4, put it here. So the 10 or the 8 here. And let's come in and let's just take a softer, not quite as cool, but a little bit of the Quinacridone Violet, and let's add just a touch of blue to that. We'll be brave. A little bit of blue. Cool that down just a bit here. And there we go. Just like that. Some of that blue mark can get up there, so we'll keep a smaller little blue flowers here. Remember, we're painting Impressionism. We're trying things, right? A little bit of that blue right up to here. Let's go. Quinacridone, a little bit of blue, a little burnt sienna, a little dirty brush here, right? So it comes off a little bit dirty here, like that. That's kind of pretty. Maybe a little darker on that one. This one might be, I always believe in compositional things that you should have a queen. You know, it's the Dutch philosophy that I painted so many years, and the queen should rule the composition. So we'll try to. We'll try to leave her running that one. I like this right here. This is a little wide right there. Maybe I take some of that putty, which soft here, and back paint into this to soften. See, so this is what an impressionist does. We'll soften some of that shadow line there just a bit, right? And see, we could take that with the blue and that burnt sienna, and you can give more of a leaf shape right off like that. So here comes a leaf right out of there. You know, just a little bit of warm burnt sienna. See, I like that. I don't know if I want to do one in there. I kind of like all of that. Maybe one right out here. A little bit more of a leaf shape. Maybe even just kind of dragging through here like that. So you see a little bit of the leaf shape. Now, let's come back up here. So maybe we got a lot of warmth of that putty, and we could take that kind of putty color. We can push that into the rose, which will warm it. I'm going to try to paint this a little bit more cool, I think, this evening. And so I'll push that on there. Let's go right into our whites. This is where the yellow and the white that I used before. Let's take a bit of that putty right over here. And we'll add a bit of the lights right here. Let's just pull right across like that. We're going to try to do these marks as simplistic as possible here. And pull down and shape our rose just with simple marks here. There we go. Just simple marks here. I'll leave that dark maybe back up there. It's different, right? It's different. We're looking for difference. And we'll cool this, let this cool off right there. A little bit of a mark inside. That took out too much, I think, so I'll just grab a little bit of the dark that I had there and restate right through that just a bit. Let's come with our light, some of this putty right out here like this, and we'll let this right out here be the main petals of it. I like this little bit just pulling off to the sides there, just like that here. Very different, right? And I see I like that where that big brush put that big mark there, so I kind of like it as a petal. So I'll push it in as a petal here. Grab some white, push it into the brush, start out in the front, the side that's closest to the front of the painting, then lift the pressure as you go back so the color gets less pressure as you go back on the petal. Here. Just a bit there, and maybe a bigger petal right up here, right like that. Let's take a little soft blue, burnt sienna, some of our cool stuff here, and just soften out that shadow on that side right there. I like it a little more blue. I want a little bit of that blue violet to come in here. A little bit of blue. That's pretty. Here, just like that. That's pretty. Now the question is, you know, how much softness do we bring in there? Oh, I like that. Let's just take that edge off of that. But I like that. A little bit of this. There, that's good. And maybe redefine that bowl again right out here. Yeah, that's kind of pretty. I love the simple, this is more of a stroke, what I call a stroke rose. So I leave the marks, the strokes, a little bit more heavy. Here. There, like that. That's kind of pretty. Let's go down into this one here. Some more white in the putty. Let's take a lighter, warmer stroke right across the top there. Pull down to what would be the base of it. I softened this a little bit. I got to thinking that this is not supposed to be the queen, and so I started putting maybe a bit too much on her. And let's build this one up a bit more. A little bit more light, maybe right down in here. Some more light. Let's take a little soft blue, maybe a touch of violet with that blue and burnt sienna right down here, which would be the shadow of the bowl, right? We want the shadow right in there. And let's go back to our putty and white. And that little fly from that last video is still here, just going right around. I tried to find him. I couldn't. He was like, whoops, you've turned off the camera, so now I've got to go hide. And so, yeah, so here we go with that. Let's put a soft little look right back behind here. So this rose will be actually appear bigger than the other one there, which will make her the queen. She'll rule it, and I'll probably cross this stem right here. So I'll take some marks of the light pulling back the other way and cross and break up that stem. Now, if I don't like that, which I do kind of like, I can always put the stem back over through it, but I don't like in my compositions anything to really get in front of the queen. I tried, covering stuff up before in previous ones with the queen, and I just didn't like it. Something about that whole Dutch philosophy of painting that I did, and you can put in there, if you go to the channel and just look up and just put in, Dutch paintings, you'll see, examples of some of the Dutch that I painted for years. And I studied the Dutch philosophies of design and color techniques, and was a big advocate for it. But it really influenced me about their compositions, how they drew floral compositions, about setting a queen of the composition that does it. So, yeah, so that looks kind of cool. Maybe a little bit more white here, thick, just pure white now, just touching just a mark or two right there, because we're going to leave this whole flower more stroked, right? And let's just draw a petal right around here like this, right? This is very different. I like this. A little bit of that light coming in there. Let's get a little bit more putty here, so it's not quite as light. And we'll go up and around a bit and build that side of the rose here. And sometimes with these stroke roses like this, where I leave them a little bit more stroked, I let different things happen. I'm going to put a little more light right here so it definitely comes up on top of that other one right there. But I'll let, like this, I won't finish off a rounding bowl like I do in some of the other things. Let's take a little bit of putty here, and we'll expand out her petals out here a bit, where she starts to soften out. And yeah, maybe some of that can just pull out like this. So you see her just, she controls a lot of things. Maybe this could be another, just a idea of something like, maybe it's going to be a little rosebud or something right in there, coming down this side here. A little rounding rosebud, something in there, right? Almost rinsed my brush. I don't normally, when I paint wet like this, I don't normally rinse my brush. I wipe it with a paper towel. And the reason why is you'll see me very specifically when I say I go clean my brush or I pick up water, because water is your solvent. All of this is really wet. If I touch water into it at all, it'll cut right through the layers and I'll pull a hole. So water, you got to remember, yeah, I don't want to clean my brush. I can just wipe it, take out most of the color. The thing about the Heritage, and these are colors that I designed, let's see, 17 years ago, I designed this line of paint to do these kinds of things, and designed the water to be the solvent in it. And, they stay wet for so long. You can control their wetness. They're not like a normal acrylic that we made in the 80s and the 90s. They're different. So here I'm just thinking another, maybe smaller, a little bit lighter than what I used before back there, and just create a little bit of movement and stuff here on this flower. That one mark is too much. So, and sometimes when I want, especially painting a real casual rose like that, stroke rose, I'll put it in, but then I take it out. I take the movement back out with the dark, because it is the dark that really sets the control. So I'll wipe my brush here. And so we'll do a little softer movement here, tapping through some of that here like that to get some of that interest. Now for me, it's too even all the way around in a circle. So I'll take some of it off so it doesn't appear like a circle in there. Those are all little things that I look at structure-wise here. So I'll take a little bit of light on the edge, a petal edging technique here, and pull that down there like that to set up that edge of the rose. I like it. I like that a lot. Now, right back in here, I love that movement in there, but maybe I want to have some light marks or something back here to say the light is back there. Like maybe there's something else back there. Does that make sense? So I'll push the color over there. So, mainly my shapes are kind of done. So, I might be just looking, I kind of see this edge right here would be really pretty if I brought it up a little bit more. So I just load that petal edging technique right there, and I just put that petal edge right on there like that. And if you haven't known, go right to the main page of my channel, and right where it says there, you know, all the things, the videos and the list, right underneath my picture, right underneath everything, right running along there. At the very end is a little, you know, a little magnifying glass for search, and just touch that, and then type in petal edging technique. That little one there, as opposed to the search engine at the top, that little one there searches my channel. And I have over 750 videos there. So search that, put in petal edging technique, and you'll see lots of videos where I teach you how to do that very specifically, okay? It works really, really well. Let's put a little bit more light, like right up in here. That will bring that even farther forward. I like that. A little bit of that violet, that right in there. Just a touch of that violet and putty right there like that. I love that. But now let's take some of these putty strokes that we have. Got a little squeak in my chair there. Let's take the putty strokes that we have here. And what I'm doing now is I'm just thinking about color movement. I don't have to have anything but color. Does that make sense? So it's color. So my question is, I love the power of that. Do I do something there, or do I put some leaves and stuff to take some of that power away? You know, if you like it, leave it. But you could do like lighter leaves, like right out here like this, fade away. A lighter set of leaves here. You could put those in more green too, and that'll take away some of the power of this movement that's there. I like that. Let's lighten up that leaf edge there just a bit, right? So it gives the impression of these leaves. I like that. Let's take one right down here, right? And you can, to facilitate so they look more like leaves, you could take the edge of your brush and just give it a little bit of a vein line right there. Maybe this vein line comes through right there. Just touches right in through like that. But I love some of that. Sometimes I'll, like this dark right here, so I'll go right along the edge of that mark with a heavier light mark right there, so that the color carries through, but your eye still sees, you know, the other composition there. So yeah, so we got a little bit of that color in there. Let's put just a touch of that softer one right in there. This is the Impressionism, right? And that's kind of where I want to go, is this Impressionism, this rose Impressionism, like here. And I want to do this with all kinds of things, the portraits and a little bit more in landscapes and stuff. But it has an Impressionism, a power to it, but it also has this really beautiful like structure of the roses and stuff. So yeah, there's just, I'm gonna curve this petal around this way just a bit, so you get a double mark there on that. And again, that helps her stay up as the queen. Maybe I'll load for that petal edge. Let's see if this works. Might not work, but draw maybe a mark like that, so it gives a little bit of an impression of another petal right there. And again, drawing more to her, maybe a little bit more of the edge of this upper petal coming out onto that one there. Yeah, just see if you like that. I love that reddish violet there. Could have a bit more. I could develop this one just a bit more with that reddish violet thin color here, and push in a little bit like this. You know, might be another like a rosebud or something coming down to this side, so we can paint it oval. An oval would make it more of a rosebud or something like that. Or if you take that oval and you open it up even more, you have a small rose. But this is all we really need. A little petal maybe coming down here. Simple, 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 because the majority of the painting is done, right? So keep your mark simple. So here, we'll take just a little bit. We'll open this up into a little oval and turn this into a bit of a rosebud there. And we'll pull this stroke down this way to oval that up a bit, just like that. Yeah, and a little bit more of that center here. There we go, ovaling that up a bit, just like that. Just very impressionistic of a something going on there. I love that stem going from burnt sienna down through to the blues and stuff. And you know, like I've said in a few of the others, I like to sometimes cross across something like that. It stops the movement coming through. And so like if you think the movement is too powerful here, you can do a couple of marks that stop the movement of something. See, that's what it does, is it just stops the movement here. A couple of marks. So that's one of the things that when you're painting like this that you're looking for is the movement, you know, the movement of the eye through the colors and everything. So anyway, there we go. We could take a touch of that cool color. So we go even lighter. So here's our putty. We'll go with a little bit of blue and some white right into that. Maybe a touch of the violet here, but more white, really light. So there's the value of the putty. So we'll go a little bit lighter in value than that one. And we'll see. I'll set my value scale here so you guys can see some of the values that I'm working with here. But so we'll push a little bit of that light right in there. See, that does the back edge of her there, this big top one here. Let's push a little bit of that light right over here onto our queen here. That mark, is that mark too much, or do I assist it with a few other little things out here to soften that? Or do I pull through to soften that? Maybe pull through with some putty here to soften that mark just a bit. Yeah, a little bit more blue, burnt sienna, just a touch darker here. We'll push the contrast right in there. There, like that. That's pretty. So a little mark of contrast. See how it all of a sudden takes your eye away from some of that other. I should have maybe a touch of warm. These are the things I look at. Warms, cools. Do I need a bit of burnt sienna? A burnt sienna note showing up right there? Would that help? You know, those are things that I look at into the painting. You know, do I darken down in there? I don't think so. I kind of like that note coming out there, but maybe a cool note right there next to that stem would look kind of neat. Blur this stem down just a bit here. Right like that. That's different. Looks fine. Looks good. Maybe even make that a bit more of a leaf here. Right like that. That's kind of neat. Yeah, so there. Very different. Very different. Okay. But, you know, it's the end of the day, and I had a lot of fun painting with that. And I love the warms and the cools and everything going on there. You know, some of you may want to turn this, add another flower there. But I like the asymmetrical bit of it. So many times I paint more symmetrically, and sometimes, you know, as an artist, it's fun to paint something that's asymmetrical, maybe hanging heavy on one side. And I love that. So all of this heaviness of color here pulls interest, and so does the flowers up there. So, you know, yeah, it causes your eye to move a little differently. Some of you may like it, some of you may not. If you don't like it, don't tell me, because I like it. Okay? I appreciate that. But anyway, thanks for joining me on this one. We'll go do some more. Those of you that, you know, if you want, go hit the subscribe down there. Make sure you click like the video. That like on the video helps a lot, guys, and we really, really, really appreciate it, okay? And I'm going to be doing a lot more of these with a lot of stuff. See if we can get some of the casual nature, along with the big paintings, okay? I haven't forgot about the other ones we got to do, the big the Rams going through Wilcox Pass and all that. I haven't forgot about that. So anyway, we're going to do that. But hopefully you enjoy it, okay? And I'll see you guys on the next one. Oh, and go check out our other channels too. The other channel, because I'm posting these up there as well, okay? All right. See you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.